my holy lamas, Lama Roger and Lama Yvonne, have taught me directly for years now, and have definitely completely changed my whole reality. And so it's beautiful that they're here tonight to share what it seems to me anyways, is to share like the nectar of what they experienced in their long retreat. So they've recently come out of a long retreat, 3-year retreat, which may be hard to imagine for some of you. But so correct me if I'm mistaken, you're combining the two lineages of, so combining the two lineages from a Diamond Mountain lineage and a Hatha Yoga Pradipika lineage. They're both the same, but two different translations, and very, very deep in experience. So please enjoy. I know that you will. I'm super stoked. And just make sure these are not too loud or too quiet for you. If you do want to use them.
I think we're okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll try with them.
Yeah?
Yeah. We'll try with them. Whatever.
Okay.
If we tighten up the circle a little bit.
We'll just pull it down. I'll just get this out of your bag.
The first thing that I think we have to apologize, because some places we saw that it was 6 to 9. Clearly you guys saw all the signs that said 5:30. But I saw some that said 6 to 9 in different places, so it's possible that some people might trickle in at 6, and for that we apologize. So we'd like to start with some ohms. So start by exhaling completely, as completely as you can. And when you think you've exhaled as much as you can, exhale some more. And then you'll be able to inhale very deeply. And then we'll do call and response. Yogam Sharanam Gacchami. Yogam Sharanam Gacchami. Yogam Charanam, join in. Gacchami. And again together. Yogam Sharanam Gacchami. And that means propelling ourselves forward with our yoga. And that mantra was given to us by Swami Buddhananda, who was just here with us, and she left yesterday. So Johnny just said that we're combining the two lineages of, he said Diamond Mountain and the yoga lineage. It's not really true that it's the Diamond Mountain lineage. It's It's the Tibetan Buddhist lineage and the yogic lineage. And the first class covers that in a lot of detail as to how that happened. But it's very momentous, actually. This moment, right here, right now, what has happened is that Swami Muktibuddhananda, who is a very renowned yoga authority, Swami, she translated and commentated on the very popular Bihar school version of Hatha Yoga Pradipika. And most people have that, most yoga schools have that, and it's the text that most yoga teacher trainings use, along with the Yoga Sutras. So those are the two main texts, along with Bhagavad Gita, that, just about all of the modern yoga schools in India and also now in the West are basing what they're teaching on those three texts. So she is the translator of the very popular version that we all use. And she was just here and she led a retreat. Some of you were there. And so she's giving us this lineage from the yoga side. And Roger and I received the lineage of Hatha Yoga Pradipika through our own teachers, Geshe Michael Roach and Lama Christy McNally. And that was through with a Tibetan Buddhist slant. And they too translated Hatha Yoga Pradipika in a 3-year retreat that they did from 2000 until 2003. And during that time, they translated the whole text. And after they came out of retreat in about 2004 or something like that, we got a direct transmission of that. First of all, from Lama Marut, whom some of you also know, and then also through advice from Geshe Michael Lama Christy. So we got that lineage in the form of a very, very, it's a very intense course, this particular course. It was kind of like a word-by-word commentary based on their translation. And their translation is it's very poetic and very Raja Yoga-ish. And then Swami Muktibuddhananda's translation is highly practical, right? So, and the interesting thing is that when we got the transmission of Hatha Yoga Pradipika from our teachers, they said to us, here's the philosophy of this text, and now you have to go and you have to practice it, because actually it's a practical guide, it's a retreat guide, and you have to do it, You can't just you can't even just meditate on it, you have to go and do it. And they were very clear, and they said, and for that you have to find a teacher, you actually have to find a direct teacher. And then by a series of highly auspicious events, we found Swami Muktibuddhananda. So this is very momentous, right? It's kind of amazing, that we bring you this Tibetan Buddhist side of the lineage, which is in the yogic tradition. They were stuck it deeply into the yoga tradition in India. And then, so now the yoga lineage and the Tibetan Buddhist lineage coming together, not only through this course, but by virtue of the fact that Swamiji was just here, joining our two lineages, And some people, Ananda La asked me, so she was at the retreat with Swamiji, and she said to me, so how does this connect with Tibetan Buddhism, with the ACI courses and the curriculum that many people at Three Jewels study? And so that is the topic of this course, is how those two lineages came together and how they connect, and how, in fact, through history, historically those two traditions were running together side by side. So, Tibetan Buddhists in Tibet, and then the yogis in India, and the Mahasiddhas and all those guys in India, the Hindu yoga from the one side and the Tibetan Buddhism yoga from the other side. But they didn't differentiate that way. They were just yogis, and that's what they called themselves, and that's what they practiced, was yoga. And they went about it a little bit differently, which we'll get to. But so anyway, that's the background of what we're going to do. Do you want to talk a little bit about the syllabus? Just a sec.
So, well, I've lost my voice.
Where is the syllabus?
So what's, Yvonne and I did a lot of these practices in our long retreat, and so we're really excited to pass that on to people who are interested. And she's already mentioned, it's very much the other side of the coin, so to speak, and there isn't really any separation between the two, between these Hatha practices and then what's called Raja or Royal Yoga and Jnana Yoga and so forth, which are more meditational and more intellectually orientated. Hatha Yoga is very much, as she's mentioned, a practice or a practical application. Let's sit down and actually work with our body more than with our mind to begin with, and we'll get into it. But Hatha, actually, one of the Tibetan interpretations is forceful or drastic means, is what Hatha Yoga actually translates in the Tibetan into. So I think it's important to, when we hear that, you might think, okay, so, really got to force my pranayama or something, or I'm really going to do my asana really hard, or I'm really going to come at my practice now because this is a forceful means. That's not what it means. Practice should be very gentle. It should be very sweet. It should be done over every day, just a little bit, over a long period of time. They say abhyasa durga kala in the Yoga Sutra. For an extended period of time, I will do my practice slowly, sweetly, gently, without hurting myself or anyone else, to the best of my ability. And that is forceful means, you see, because I'm doing my Hatha practice. You see the difference? So try to think about it like that. It is a forceful means, but we do it very gently. Why it's so profound is because with Hatha practice, specifically pranayams, you get to bypass the mind completely. Okay, like a lot of people try to meditate, they take all kinds of courses, sit down, do this, do that, don't do this, do that, and you're working purely with the mind. You're sitting there, and you're trying to meditate, and for a lot of people that can be really hard. Especially in today's world with busy lives, busy commitments, busy stuff going on, and people are doing this thing all the time, and there's just a million things happening, and then we want to try to get our mind to a single point of focus. It's pretty difficult for many people to do that. Not impossible, but difficult. So the beauty of Hatha practice is the fact that because prana and mind are inseparably joined, you can use the body, the gross body and the gross breath to access your more subtle body and your subtle breath, and where goes the prana, there so the mind must go. You see, it must go there. The Tibetans call this lungsem jupachipa, which means wind and mind are inseparably joined. So you can do it by meditating, and you can send your mind to a certain place in your body, we call like a crucial point, let's say for example like the heart chakra. You can put your mind there and you can have certain results. Or you can work with your prana and your winds and your Hatha practice, and you can come around, like almost the back doorway, so you can get the same result without having to struggle through decades of meditation and frustration. And frankly, a lot of people do. All over the world, you talk to people and they're like, yeah, I've been meditating for like 20 years and not much has happened or changed, That's really sad. It's almost a waste, I think. So these practices can really help with that. And also, just to say, it's not that I think that we would do just one or just the other. Okay, I think it's really important to use both. A savvy yogi will use every tool at their disposal to try to get to their goal quickly. So should I do just Raja Yoga and meditation, or should I just do the Hatha practice, the drastic means, and bypass the mind? You know, the question is sort of moot. You should really, if you can, do a little bit of both. And then you can get a nice upward momentum, and they complement each other beautifully. So that's just some ideas about Hatha practice. I wanted to introduce two ladies who I did a yoga teacher training with in Salt Spring Island this summer. Kim Gillette and Ginny Cluse here, and we've invited them here to teach just little pieces of pranayam for us all tonight, and hopefully through the fall a little bit if we keep going. We received a very, very detailed, very beautiful lineage transmission on pranayam from the Salt Spring Center of Yoga, and it was exquisite. The detail, we sat down with the senior teachers of Baba Haridas every day, every morning, and we went through in the most exquisite detail how you do each pranayam and how you get into it and how you come out of it and all the details, and it's very beautiful. So we're totally delighted that they're here to help us with that. And you know, I would think Three Jewels has had a formal pranayam class for a while, so our hope is that maybe there'll be some interest and that people will be wanting to attend a regular weekly pranayam class in order to complement everything else that you're doing in your studies and your practices. It's very beneficial. Not only do you get wonderful worldly or nominal health benefits from pranayam, but also because of Lungsen Jupachipa, because prana and mind are joined, it's an extraordinary tool for getting to meditative stillness. So if it's going to happen and be offered, that will be wonderful, and if there's enough interest, then we'll see what happens. So that's our intention with that. So that's my little intro. Did you want to do something else, or we're going to just get right into it?
I think we'll do a little yoga nidra. But I'm just worried about those 6 o'clock people. So maybe what we'll do, could we please have a clock?
Yes.
Should we just get going on this room?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, we'll kill a little time and then we'll do a yoga nidra. Oh, thank you. Yeah, great. So we are under instruction from our teachers as to, you know, how to present some of this course, and we're also under instruction from Swami Muktibarananda as to what practical elements she thought it would be good to include in this particular course. So she would like us to do at least a pranayama and a yoga nidra and eventually a bandha mudra at each class. So we're going to do that too. And whatever shatkarmas we can manage in this kind of a setting, which are not that many. But as the fall, you know, as the course goes on, and maybe in course 2, what we would like to do is have some sort of a weekend situation where those of you who didn't go to her retreat can experience what we did, you know, at the retreat, and the things that she taught us and some of the shatkarmas that she taught us. So we'll have some kind of an opportunity to do that, to gather at Gabriela at Diamond Forest, and we can do that. And even if you did go to her retreat, if you're dying to do those shatkarmas again, then please come. Because they're so fun, you know. They really are so fun. So the syllabus, this is how the course is laid out. This is how Hatha Yoga Pradipika is laid out, and this course is laid out this way. The first chapter of Hatha Yoga Pradipika is called Asana. Asana, everybody knows what asana is, right? And in Hatha Yoga Pradipika there are only 15 asana, and they're sort of core asana, which are very specifically designed to do some kind of a specific movement of the prana, of the pranic energy. Very specific, right? And specifically, all of the practices of Hatha Yoga Pradipika are designed to get the prana into the core, from the outer nadis, all the nadis, and then into the two side channels, Ida Pingala, into Sushumna, into the central channel. Basically, that's the bottom line of this practice, Hatha Yoga. Everything that you do is designed to get your prana into the central channel. Every asana, every movement that you make, every pranayama that you do, every mudra, every bandha that you apply, every shatkarama, every purification that you do is designed to clear your body of congestion and obstruction so that the prana can move easily. So that's it. That's all there is to get the prana into the central channel. Why do we want to do that, right? It's like the mission. The reason is that they tell us that when all of the prana makes its way into the central channel and is sealed there by the process of bandhas and mudras, then you have an experience of a completely different kind of consciousness. Your consciousness, they say, raises, right? Transcends this normal kind of nominal reality that you're familiar with. And the experience of yourself as being of any kind of a dual nature dissolves. So your experience of, and why that happens is because it's the two side channels that give rise to the perception that we are male, and female, and that there's a day and that there's a night. And that's why it's called Hatha, by the way. Ha meaning sun and Ta meaning moon. And so, your experience of the sun and the moon, which give rise to time, right? And the fact that there's some kind of space which is other than you, and then the space which you take up, and that there's a difference, between those things. All of those perceptions of what we call duality arise from the fact that we have any prana at all running in Ida Pingala, in the two side channels. So as that prana starts to leave and be gently coerced into the central channel by these practices, then you lose that perception. You lose that perception that there is a duality and that there's any sort of a time and space kinds of concepts, all of the concepts that we operate within, right? We operate within them. And that, Tibetan Buddhists call that seeing ultimate reality, or shunyata in Sanskrit. Seeing emptiness directly is the phrase that gets bandied about here at Three Jewels a lot. And what it means to see emptiness directly, they tell us it is that you simply understand that the duality that you view and the world that you perceive is coming from you. The view is yours, and it's not imposing itself upon you. It's coming from you for some reason. For some reason you're driven, you're forced to see this world, this dual world. And they tell us that that forced view arises as a result of eons, right? Eons of seeing it that way. Eons of seeing it that way. You just see it that way, and so you see it that way in your next life, and you see it that way in your next life. And it's sanskaras, it's imprints and impressions, infinite impressions. And as you become conscious of the fact that you might be doing something to create those impressions, then we can say, oh, it's karma, karma. But karma implies some kind of consciousness of this kind of process, right? Sanskaras, imprints, this sort of, it's like this, you're not even conscious and aware, You're dying and you're reborn, and you're dying and you're reborn, and round and around and around it goes, And then somehow you run into a yoga class somewhere, right? Or some kind of a wild YTT, like some of the ones that we in this room have been to. And then somehow, a little more prana gets into the central channel from the practices that you learn. And somehow you think, oh, maybe there's like something I can do about anything. Maybe there's something I can do about anything at all. Oh, maybe it's I'm driven by my karma to view my world as I do. Okay, well, if I'm driven by my karma to view my world as I do, can I not drive my karma to see my world some other way, tomorrow, right? In 3-year retreat, we did a lot of sign language, and this was tomorrow, and this was yesterday, and this was peeing. This is... I'm over it. So, somehow you come to that, there's something that you could get in the driver's seat, You could get in the driver's seat and manage that process, right? How? Well, we asked Swami Mukti that question at breakfast a couple of mornings ago. Roger did. He said, how do we do it, Swamiji? Like, how do we do it, What can trip us into that realization? And she said, Samadhi. Samadhi. Samadhi is the 4th chapter of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. In Tibetan Buddhism, we really like to start at the goal and work our way backwards, right? So, in order to get to Samadhi, right, what do you have to do? So from a Hatha, from a physical perspective, it's what Roger was saying. You have to bring the prana into the central channel. You have to somehow get it in there and keep it in there and seal it in there. Why? Because when you do that, prana is like a super subtle form of breath. Breath. And the thoughts are always riding with the breath. They're totally inseparable. They cannot be pried apart from one another. And where your mind is, your breath is there. Whether your breath is ragged or gasping or stopped or whatever it's doing, it's driven by the thoughts in your mind. And so the reverse is also true. The reverse is also true. So if you're doing something very conscious and manipulative with your breath, your gross breath, then your prana is riding in that same direction, in that same groove, and so are your thoughts. And everything is coming to that neuronal pattern, right? That neuronal pattern and that pranic pathway. So samadhi, you could say that the physical manifestation of the state of samadhi is that you're totally still, for one thing, and people have different opinions. There are different opinions about, like, what does that mean in terms of the gross breath, right? Well, maybe I'll just tell you that Divarkar, when I did YTT at Salt Spring Center, I said to him, oh yeah, so like with the pranayama and the fact that we're working towards some kind of a bringing the prana to stillness with that pranayama practice. And so what does it really mean, What does it really mean? We want to induce a state of spontaneous retention of the breath, where the breath just becomes completely still, effortlessly though. And so, like, is there any correlation between a Buddha and, how long they can hold their breath, And he said, actually there is, he said. And I said, really? How many? Because we take about 21,600 cycles of breath in a 24-hour period, right? And yeah, it's true that the purpose of pranayama is to lower that number, to decrease that number. So he said that enlightened being does 108 breath cycles in a 24-hour period. So the physical manifestation of a Buddha, a realized being, who has a choice about where they are, whether they stay in samadhi or not, they have a choice about it. They could stay. if it serves them to leave their state of samadhi momentarily or whatever for a day or a year or a generation or an eon, then they do that. But the point is that they have a choice. So those people are moving towards the 108 breaths per 24-hour cycle by virtue of the fact that they've withdrawn all of their thoughts and their prana into a single still point, and they can hold there. They can just stay like a dog, you know. So the physical manifestation of that is a state of complete stillness physically, of course. Not necessarily, actually that's not necessarily the case, but let's say for the moment that it is. And so initially you've got to be able to sit very still, and you've got to be able to bring your mind to a state of stillness, and you've got to be able to withdraw your senses and work with the prana, with the gross breath, so that you can do what you want with it. You can bring it to a state of stillness and actually be holding it spontaneously, comfortably, gently, in a relaxed way for a long time. You know, a long time, right? So that's samadhi. And so then the third chapter of Hatha Yoga Pradipika, and also in the fourth chapter, there's a lot of discourse on nada yoga, which is the yoga of sound, you know. And the way that I like to, you know, how is it that sound, what does sound have to do with the state of samadhi? What it has to do with the state of samadhi is, like, for example, if I say, shh, listen. You guys aren't even breathing, right? Because you're trying to hear what I'm getting you to listen, right? So the sense of listening is like that, right? When you apply the sense of listening, your whole body goes into that state of listening. And you're just like, right? Like that. So Nada Yoga is very useful. And the other thing with Nada Yoga is, Swami Mukti told us that the sense of hearing is the last one to withdraw. When you withdraw the senses into a state of pratyahara, the sense of hearing is the last one that has to come in. So it's very useful to use it, you know, practice with it, right? Because when it comes down to it, when you're in the nth hour, that's the one that you have to withdraw. So it's a highly functional tool for achieving this state of samadhi. And then there are some mudras in the fourth chapter too, which are associated with this process of sealing the prana into the central channel. And it's very odd because chapter 3 is mudra and bandha, but there is one mudra in chapter 4, and that's called Kachari mudra, which we practice in the retreat, right? So it's a special mudra that you use to seal off the upper gates, some of the upper gates of the central channel. And so that falls into chapter 4, interestingly. So chapter 3 is mudra and bandha. Bandha, I think, you know, most people are familiar with Uddiyana, Mula bandha, Uddiyana bandha, and Jalandhara bandha, right? Mula bandha is the lowest gate of the central channel. Uddiyana bandha is the solar plexus lock, and then Jalandhara bandha is the throat lock. And then there are 10 what are called mudra. And there are several translations of mudra that we work with. The first one, the common translation of mudra is gesture. Gesture, you know, like, right? Gesture. But you can think of gesture not just as this kind of a gesture, you know, right? But a gesture that you make with your body. So, for example, probably all of you know Viparita Karani. Viparita Karani is like a half shoulder stand. And that's called a mudra. Viparita Karani mudra. Because you're forming a seal of prana with your body. You're forming it's a gesture of your body. Or sometimes they say attitude, an attitude. And it's an interesting word, right? Attitude, because it's referring to a physical position, but it's also referring to I think, a mental position. So then, in order to get to mudra and bandha safely, in order to be able to apply mudra and bandha and even to use it, right? Like this simple thing that we do, it's very profound, you know. It's not so simple as that. And what it's doing is it's sealing prana, just like all the other mudras seal prana. And this simple thing, you know, they are sealing prana in a very, very powerful way. And some of the mudras are more powerful and lock up. You know, they lock up the prana in the central channel more powerfully and drastically than other mudras. But the point is that with all the mudras, the body has to be very ready. The body has to be fit. You know, literally fit, like you talk about fitness, right? And in Tibetan, you know, the word lerung, right? Lerung is the word for a certain kind of retreat that we do in Tibetan Buddhist practice. And that word means fitness. And it refers to making your body and your channels fit for this pratyahara and locking the prana into the central channel. And unless you're very clean, because you've done your shatkarmas and you've done your pranayama, and before that, you know, you did your asana and you physically opened the channels and the nadis, cleared them of obstruction, cleared them of congestion. Unless you work in that order from 1 through 3, it's frankly terrifying. You know, if you then start applying very powerful mudras, and things can go wrong, right? Probably everyone knows somebody that's somebody who like melted down as a process of not being fit. So that's the book. That's the course, and that's the book. Asana, pranayama, preceded by shatkarama, which are the purifications, 6 purifications. We'll get into it in more detail. And then we go into the mudras and the bandhas, and then once you can apply the mudras and the bandhas, then you're ready. Then you can start withdrawing your senses and use your nada yoga and you know, go into samadhi. So that's the recipe, right? That's the cookbook, and that's the recipe that Yogi Swatmarama gives us, Master Swatmarama. So I think we can safely do Yoga Nidra. I think so. So maybe what we can do is, if you just open up your blanket so that you can recline comfortably. And there are some yoga mats there too, if you like. So have your head to knee and your feet down that end. So we'll just do a short one today, not so long. So you're going to take a Shavasana position. Just have a little scan of your body and just a general awareness of the imprint that you're making on your mat, on your blanket. Imagining that the surface below you is very, very fine white sand, super fine sand, and having an awareness of what shape, what length, what width of an imprint your body is making in that sand right now. And then It's the end of the week, and it's looks like probably was a busy week with the teachers, everybody going back to school maybe, I think. But now it's time for Yoga Nidra, and your body is here in this sand and your mind is here, and use the sound of my voice to be conscious of this Yoga Nidra practice. And if you do fall asleep, then my voice will bring you back, the practice will bring you back, and that's okay. It's totally cool if you drift off. The practice, the benefits of the practice you will still benefit from the practice, even if you drift off. So bring to your mind some kind of a resolution. It's called sankalpa in Sanskrit, and it means, it's like a sort of similar to a positive affirmation. Using positive language, using the present tense, using the word I, and then a present tense verb of some kind, action word, and then a powerful subject, a powerful result as a result of your action word that you want to see in yourself or your world, something like that. And when you think of something short, repeat it to yourself 3 times with feeling, with resolve, with deep resolve. So take your awareness to your right hand. Right thumb, relax. Right fingers, relax. Right palm, let go. Right wrist, relax. Right forearm, softly let go. Right elbow, right upper arm, relax. Left thumb, relax. Left fingers, index, middle, ring, pinky, let go. Left palm sinks, relax. Left wrist, relax. Left forearm, relax. Left elbow, relax. left upper arm. Relax. The whole right arm. Relax. The whole left arm. Relax. Right foot, big toe, second, third, fourth, pinky, relax. Right foot, top of foot, sole, arch, heel, relax. Right ankle, relax. Right shin, calf, relax. Right knee, back of knee, relax. Right thigh, front of thigh, relax. Back of thigh, relax. Left foot, left big toe, let go. Left second, third, fourth, pinky, relax. Left top of foot, sole of foot, arch, heel, relax. Left ankle, relax. Left shin, relax. Left calf, relax. Left knee, back of knee, relax. Left thigh, top of thigh, hamstring, relax. The whole right leg, relax. The whole left leg, relax. The right buttock, relax. Right front of the pelvis, relax. Right waist, relax. Right rib cage, front, relax. Right rib cage, back, relax. Right chest, relax. Right shoulder blade, relax. Right collarbone, relax. Relax whole right shoulder, relax. Left buttock, relax. Left front of pelvis, relax. Left waist, relax. Left rib cage, front, relax. Back, relax. Left shoulder blade, relax. Left collarbone, relax. Relax the lower torso. The whole pelvis sinks. Relax. The whole rib cage sinks. Relax. The whole upper chest, shoulders, relax. The throat, front of throat, relax. Back of neck, relax. Back of skull, relax. Brain, relax. Brain, relax. Ears, right, relax. Left, relax. Jaw, right, relax. Left, relax. Teeth, relax. Lips, relax. Nose, relax. Right temple, relax. Left temple, relax. Forehead, relax. Right eye, eyebrow, relax. Left eye, eyebrow, relax. Top of the head, relax. The whole head, relax. The whole right side of your body, relax. The whole left side of your body, relax. your whole body relax. Bring your consciousness back to the surface of your skin, where you feel the air against your exposed skin, and become aware of the imprint that your body is making now in that superfine white sand. And very slowly, and with awareness of every part of your body, bring some movement back to your extremities and then your body, eventually coming to your right side for a moment. So when you're ready, bring yourself back up to seated position, and we will do an asana. So during this retreat that we just finished, Swami Muktibuddhananda, she did, I want to say, I don't know, maybe an hour of Yoga Nidra a day? Would that be about right? At least, did we do Yoga Nidra morning and afternoon? Or just once a day? Just once a day. And how many? 20? Yeah, 30-minute Yoga Nidra practice. And she has a 45-minute Yoga Nidra practice too. And we have some CDs at the back. There are 2 different ones of her teaching Yoga Nidra. It's really exquisite, unbelievable practice. So you can go to her website, maybe later we'll put it on the whiteboard here, but you can go to her website and check it out and try her Yoga Nidra, and then you can see if you like it and want to get a CD. So the asana that we're going to practice today is called Swastikasana. Swastikasana is one of the first seated postures that we're going to do. And the reason is that right after that we're going to do some pranayama. Where'd she go? Okay, you're on. So Swastikasana is where you have you take one ankle on top of the other, like this. One ankle goes on top of the other. And it's different from Siddha Yoni Asana or Siddhasana. Siddhasana we're going to do next time, I guess, or maybe later. But in Siddhasana, you actually sit on your heel and then you tuck your toes in between the calves and the thighs. So that's a different asana. Swastikasana, you just rest the ankle, the heels like this, one on top of the other. And it's pretty comfortable. It's not half lotus. Half lotus is completely different, right? Oh, wow. Half lotus. The foot, the heel is in the belly, and the whole foot is like in the crease of the hip. So that's half lotus. Swastikasana is like so. And it's probably more comfortable to have a little lift under your sitting bones to try. And some people find it very uncomfortable and bony, and sometimes you can put like a little piece of your blanket or something between the two ankles, and that can help. So we'll explore a variety of different seated postures to see. You can see, it's good to have a variety. What we noticed in, when you sit for many, many, many hours a day, kind of like as a career, what you have to do is you have to develop many different kinds of sitting for different things, like, so we might do a pranayama practice, and then we do some some mudra practice or something, but we would do a whole bunch of pranayama in Vajrasana or something like that, and then we'd do a whole bunch more in something, half lotus, and then we'd do, something else in like this, or Bhadrasana, because after a couple of years I can tell you that if you're not doing that kind of stuff, and if you're, old, like me, then your hips go into, what's that word? They don't move.
Metamorphosis.
Metamorphosis. No, that would be nice. That's more like the goal.
Rigor mortis.
Rigor mortis.
Right.
Rigor mortis is more like it. Metamorphosis would be good. So let's try Swastikasana. If it's comfortable, try Swastikasana. And then we'll ask him and Ginny to teach our first pranayama. Our first pranayama is going to be deep yogic breathing. No?
Is there anyone doing Ustream right now?
There's a viewer here.
Okay. Do you think that they can hear?
Let's have them come up here.
Should we? No, I'm just talking about microphones. Is the audio? I mean, can they hear it?
Yeah, it should be fine. Yeah,
okay.
There's no need for
Okay.
microphone as long as you speak loud.
So do you guys want to sit like here
Yeah.
and here and just
Come.
on the edges? Yeah, like one each. Awesome. So Ken and Jenny. Yeah, that's great.
Ken and Jenny.
Yeah.
So, you're not really in the Ustream though.
Too big for up here. Does that work?
Let's go like, not quite, maybe if we...
Do you have a question?
No, I'm just, if I don't fit in, I am gonna...
It's just that we kind of need them in the middle. That would
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what's good.
Sure.
Sorry, I know I'm trying
Sure.
to see if I
take
can...
the throw.
But yes.
And do you need to move it so I can see? Should we? Is it... Do you guys mind if we just lift them?
Yeah, you could just
And
put
then
the
I'll
whole thing up.
lift it up.
Just watch the legs. They
Yeah.
fold in.
Okay.
They flop in. Yeah, there you go. Great.
Thank you.
Alright.
Okay.
That's so exciting. So, So I'm going to start our first pranayama. Louder. I'm going to start our first pranayama, the full yogic breathing. So this is a breath that incorporates an abdominal breath and a chest breath. And so the abdominal breath is when as we inhale, we don't move the chest, and we only expand the abdomen out as we inhale, and then back in as we exhale. And then the chest breath would be keeping the abdomen still and only inhaling and lifting the chest up and expanding it. And then when we exhale, the chest goes down. And so in the full yogic breath, we incorporate both of those on our inhalation. I guess Kim will demo as I talk through. So she'll exhale completely to begin. And then you pull the abdomen in as you exhale to really get all of the air out so that we can fill the lungs in. So yeah. And then as she begins to inhale, the abdomen goes out. And then she continues to inhale, and the chest will begin to rise. And then on the exhale, first you lower the chest back down, and then the abdomen comes in. And so the full yogic breath is kind of the foundation of all pranayama practices, so it's really good to just get your body used to moving the breath in those different areas of the body, because other practices.
So everything's also going out and back as much as it's raising up and out. So it's really.
And you can increase the capacity of your lungs by practicing this breath. And so I'll do it together now. So sitting up tall, everyone can do a complete exhale, and the abdomen will pull in to really get all the air out. And then as you inhale, your abdomen will extend outwards, and then continue to inhale as the chest rises. And so you're bringing air into all parts of your lungs. And then when you exhale, the chest will fall back down, and the abdomen will pull in. So we'll do a few more rounds. So inhale, abdomen extends out. Continue to inhale and your chest rises. And then exhale completely. As you get in tune with your body and this breath, you can judge whether you want to do shorter inhalations and exhalations, and then slowly work up to longer breaths. And this will just begin to totally relax your body and prepare your body for further pranayama practices. So I guess everyone
She's enjoying it too much.
Everyone can do maybe one or two more breaths, and then
I think since you guys are here, you want to just do
both?
this.
Do the other one?
Yeah. That's
Mhm.
Did you want
What do you
us
think?
to do both? Or?
I mean, they're here now,
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
right? Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, well, our bodies are all prepared for Nadi Showdown now.
So next we'll do Nadi Shodan, which is alternate nostril breathing. So it utilizes the similar breath. We'll keep the full yogic breath, but we'll be using the direction of a horseshoe shape of our breath up through the nostrils. But we'll just start by doing one side and then the other, and then we'll kind of weave them together afterwards. So we'll use Vishnu Mudra, which is to lower the first two fingers down, and then we'll use our thumb and our ring finger mostly. So the pinky can kind of be wherever is comfortable. I tend to keep them all together, but that's just me. And then another key point is to lift the elbow away from the chest. So we'll be moving from side to side, but you want some space here so that, again, like that full yogic breath, really have room to inhale, expand the chest, and then gently exhale as well. So trying not to shrug the shoulder up if you can, just kind of lifting that elbow out like a bit of a wing. And then people have quite primarily been taught to push on the outside, but we were just speaking with Roger and Padma recently, and they were advised to actually just close the hole instead. So rather than squishing the sides in, you just gently press and cover the bottom. And if that doesn't work for you, you can also press a little up higher in the nostril to block the air, so just avoiding using the bottom for now. And then again, like I said, we'll use the full yogic breath. So we'll just begin with the left nostril. First, Ginny will demonstrate. So to begin with our left, we'll exhale completely all the way down, really contracting that abdomen at the end, pulling that belly button in. And then covering our right nostril with our thumb, we'll inhale in the left nostril, full yogic breath all the way up. And for this point, we'll just exhale through that nostril, just becoming familiar with the breath all the way down. And then we'll move our finger to the other side, using our ring finger to block the bottom, or by pressing up higher, whichever is comfortable. Inhaling all the way up in our full yogic breath, letting the abdomen come out, fill into the chest, and then exhaling down from the chest, letting the abdomen come in. And then the breath itself will be, as I said, through the horseshoe. So we'll cover our right nostril, inhale through the left, and then we'll cover the left, exhale through the right, and then inhale through the right, and then cover through the left, or exhale through the left. So I'll talk Ginny through it first, and she can demonstrate, and then we'll all do it together. But you're welcome to come along for the ride as well. It's a fun ride. So exhaling fully to begin, all the way down, really blowing that belly button in, covering the right nostril, inhaling through the left nostril in our full yogic breath, all the way up. And then when you reach the top, just moving your finger over, using your ring finger to plug the left nostril, and exhaling all the way out through the right. And then keeping your hands where they are, and inhale through the right, all the way up in our full yogic breath. And then when you reach the top of that, switching fingers, covering the right nostril with your thumb, and then exhaling through the left. So that full horseshoe is one round going each way. So the next round you would begin inhaling through the left, exhaling through the right, inhaling through the right, and exhaling through the left. So just continuing on your own to go through, inhaling through your left nostril, filling up the whole body cavity, covering the left nostril, exhaling through the right, and then inhaling through the right nostril, covering the right and exhaling through the left. And at the bottom of your left exhale, just continuing with another inhale up through the left. So we're switching at the top of our inhale. So this breath is called Nadi Shodan, Nadi being the subtle energy channels, and Shodan meaning to purify or cleanse. So it is the breath for cleansing the nadis and purifying the body, as Padma and Roger were speaking, to prepare ourselves and really channel that pranic energy. And then whenever that feels complete for you, just resting again, taking a few moments to feel what that breath feels like. Either returning to the full yogic breath naturally, or just letting yourself be breathed.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, let's see. How are you doing? Do you need a snack or anything?
Yeah.
You need a snack? Yeah. It's a good time because we've done our pranayama.
Yeah.
Let's have a snack break.
Yay.
Yeah. All we have to offer you is chocolate,
Peaches,
plums, and black licorice sticks. Oh, there's something back there?
Biscuits.
Oh, there's biscuits, Christine. So please have a little walk around or... By the way, bathroom breaks, you should go anytime. No need to wait for breaks, because we only have one bathroom. So if we wait for a break, it gets plugged up. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What's happening? What's
Thank you. Gonna be okay. It's very warm in here, doesn't it? We like to keep the windows closed because it's so noisy, but should we open? Maybe we could open
We can
that
get some air going. if you
door
like.
back.
Yeah, it was just for Yoga Nidra, I think, that we did that.
Oh, good, yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Chad.
Yeah. dinner is over.
No, let Ananda have her dinner.
I was kidding. Do you have any pudding? We've got some chalky up here.
Peach.
We got peaches.
They're not quite right, I don't think, are they? Sort of.
So, did you find that, or let me ask this, who found the Yoga Nidra before the pranayama assisted with the pranayama? Like if you're doing pranayama every day. Did you notice that? Do you notice that?
I wasn't really doing yoga nidra.
Oh, okay. No, that's right, you weren't. Well, and anybody else? Did you notice? Yeah. What we notice from our own experience is that the prerequisite for pranayama practice is relax. Relax. It's really, really important to completely relax before you do pranayama. And in fact, before you meditate, but pranayama especially. If you have any kind of tension that you're holding in your mind or your body, right? It forms a seal, it forms a mudra, but just not quite the way you intended it, Mm-hmm. So, if you're irritated or something like that, then it's like a pingala blockage situation, and then it's unbalanced. Your nadi shodhana will be unbalanced, and like that, right? So depending on what sort of situation you've got going on in your mind, it's very important to try to let go of those kinds of things. And Yoga Nidra is a nice way, I think, to do that. Or at the very least, to consciously make an effort to relax your body and relax your mind before you come to a pranayama practice. It's much more powerful than we think. Pranayama is way more powerful than we think. And if you have a regular pranayama practice, then you'll notice that sometimes you feel really amazing and blissful after it, and then other times you can have some other nasty results, which we'll talk about later, right? But anyway, the point is that it's very important to relax. Okay, should we carry on?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I think we should read a few verses. Yeah.
Oh, good. Let's read a verse.
We're going to read out a couple of verses from the actual text. So this begins like a... the first thing that happens when a yogi writes a book is they make obeisance to their holy teacher, and they pay homage to the lineage, and they demonstrate the lineage. And that's very important in any undertaking for a yogi, is to always have that in mind, where that information came from, their teachers granted it to them. So it's paying respect to your teacher, right? So he starts out, first verse 1.1, Shri Adinatya Namastu Tasmai Hyenopatishta Hatha Yoga Vidya Vibhrajate Pronata Raja Yogam Arudam Ichor Adhiro Nivya. I bow down as it should be to the Shining One, the first protector, to the one who first taught the art of yoga of the sun and moon, and I will dress its lovely form in jewels. It is the one staircase for those who hope to ascend to the lofty heights of royal yoga. So, and then he goes on with demonstrating the lineage and all what they call the Mahasiddhas, or the Paramparas, all the people in the Hatha Yoga lineage, the great accomplished ones, and we'll get into it a little bit. When you receive teachings through a pure lineage, something interesting happens, and there's a snowballing effect of the prana as it's passed from one being to another, as it's given and gifted from your teacher to you, and then as you slowly become a teacher and you pass it to your students, and so forth and so on and so on. And what happens is that as a lineage gets deeper and has more people involved in it, the power of the lineage increases. People think, oh, as a lineage gets older or so forth, it depreciates. It's not so. It actually increases in power. Much the way, I use the analogy of, it's a sort of a weird analogy actually, but in animals collect toxins from the environment and they store it in the tissues of their fat tissue, and it accumulates in parts per million. So, you know, XYZ pollutants happening, say like a fish or something in the ocean, there's all kinds of pollutants. Little fish get polluted, and then a bigger fish eats the little fish, and then a bigger fish eats that fish, and then a bigger fish eats that one, and it goes all the way up the food chain. And as you increase, the parts per million of the toxins increase, and so when you end up with like a tuna or a shark or something like that, very high up on the food chain, they have a massive amount of accumulated toxins compared to fish way down on the food chain. It's like that with a lineage, although it's not toxin. It's pure like teachings and realizations that have been gifted, usually inserted into mankind's consciousness by a divine being, right? Like by a Buddha, by an angel, by a deity, by a body of light, whoever it is that you think, you know, like Moses on the mountain got the 10 Commandments, right? Like that. Something's happening and there's a connection between somebody in humankind form and someone from a different realm of consciousness, and they're giving a teaching. And then that's inserted into mankind's consciousness, and then it begins to flow out like that. So that power increases as the lineage gets older and it has more depth to it. And it's very beautiful as he goes through this whole parampara, it's called. So the next verse, 1.2, I, the yogi, Swatmarama, this is the yogi that wrote the text, bow deep to my protector, the shining teacher, and now I shall explain the art of the yoga of the sun and moon, but only as a means to reach royal yoga. So he's clearly telling us here, you know, this is the ladder that we're going to use to get to royal yoga. Royal yoga being meditation. Royal yoga meaning samadhi, as Yvonne has already been talking a little bit about. And he's saying Hatha Yoga is the bridge or the ladder, the connection that I'm going to demonstrate now and use in order that I can help people to get to that place. So, yeah, we've talked about it a little bit. We've already addressed it. We don't want to keep on repeating ourselves here. In this day and age, we feel like the world really needs Hatha Yoga. We feel like people need to work with their bodies and really clean them out and get your asana practice down, get your pranayama down, get your shatkamas, or what also calls cleansing kriyas, down. You know, all the stuff that we do with salt water and like this and like that, and there's all kinds of mad stuff, right? And it works to purify the body and to relieve the toxins and the build-up and the stress, and to strengthen the channels where the prana flows. These are called nadis in Sanskrit. And when you can get all of that working, as we said, then you get a fluidity of prana, and then you can begin to start to meditate. And you'll have a much higher probability of success when you do that. And we also talked about co-joining those two together. Don't just dump your meditation practice and do your kriyas and your asana. Do both, right? And then see where that can take you. Verse 1.3, Parantya Bahu Mata Devante Raja Yogam Ajantanam Hatha Pradipikam Dahate Svatmarama Kirpa Akarach mired in their wrong ideas, chasing after what everyone says has value, people have been unable to learn royal yoga. And so I, Svatmarama, out of compassion for them, set forth the lamp that illuminates the way of the sun, yoga of the sun and the moon. So he's clearly stating it, like even back then, in they think it was around the 15th century that this text was written. Even then, Master Swatmarama is saying nobody could focus. You know, everyone was having trouble getting to royal yoga. So let's start back with basics and see where we can go from there. And we'll use this as a path, as a means to get to samadhi. Yeah. So, you know, this is a very esoterical text, and if you don't have a background in yoga and you come in here and plop down, you may wonder what we're talking about when it's like deities, Buddhas, beings of light, you know, angels. Like, what is that? And what is the practical application for our lives here and now? You know, like, okay, that's the goal. We want to become something like that. Maybe we don't even really know what that is. So how does this affect our daily lives? You know, how can my yoga make me a better person? You know, that's really what's at stake here. Is that it's awesome to have this idea that maybe I can turn into a body of light or something like that. That's great. You want to hold that idea, but in the meantime, what is the practical application for my life? Basically what it boils down to is, if you do your yoga sweetly, as we talked about, gently, properly, frequently, hopefully daily, just a little bit. Doesn't have to be, you know, that you do some mad 3-year retreat or something. It's not like that. You just do a little bit every day. Something shifts in your body and your mind. You get a little bit happier. Things get to smooth out a little bit. You have a little bit more equanimity for people. Perhaps you have more patience. Perhaps you don't get quite so angry as you used to a few years ago. You see, those are the things that you can measure as a barometer for how is my yoga going in my life. You know, am I any happier? You know, is this benefiting me? Am I able to help other people more than I used to? Am I out of my own head about worrying about me all the time? And now maybe is my mind starting to turn towards thinking about others more? See, that's one of the big measurements that a teacher will use to decide whether they're even going to give their student these kinds of teachings. In the old days, that's how it was basically the teacher would look at the student and go, what is their level of kindness? You see? What is their level of compassion that they have? How open is their heart? How much do they care about other people? Because if you don't have that, yoga can hurt you. See, yoga doesn't have any power or ability to do anything for you at all. It doesn't work. Yoga doesn't work. Nothing works, frankly. Yoga is what we call empty. It's just like everything else. It doesn't have any inherent qualities of making you a better person, or happy, or a being made of light, or a Buddha, or anything else. It's solely dependent upon your approach to the system. Will be the determining factor as to does yoga work for me or not. And really what that means is, how much am I willing to consider other people and help other people and be kind to other people, rather than constantly grasping things to myself. All the time, you know, it's about me. Either I'm ignorantly desiring things, or I'm ignorantly pushing them away with aversion because I don't want this. I don't like that. That person annoys me. I don't want them in my life. But I do want this thing over here because that's making me feel good, you know. There's this push and pull all the time that's going on in our lives, you know. So that's the measure right there, kindness. And that's how these teachings were dispensed by masters to their students, is with that idea in mind. So we'll start with a couple of verses, and we'll just go back to... So we dealt with the flow of the book. And then he's bowed down to his holy teacher. So now we're just going to break down a few words here for you. So Hatha, as Yvonne said, you know, sun and moon, yoga of the sun and the moon, yoga of the two side channels, right? Ida and Pingala, that's what we're talking about here. And then the yoga comes from the Sanskrit word yuj, and yuj means to yoke or join. That's Y-U-J. So joining the two side channels, getting them really open, fit, healthy, opening everything up, and then getting that prana into the central channel. That's yoga, and that's Hatha yoga. And then you're also hitting Raja yoga when you do that as well. So yoga, Hatha yoga, Pradipika. Pradipika is like what they call like a light. Here's the breakdown on the word. Pra means forward. It comes into English as forward from the Sanskrit, which also comes in as prow, like prow of a boat, the front of a boat. Also comes in as proud. Deep, like Pradipika, comes into English as divine, deity, Zeus, and Jupiter. So the Pradipika is also like a light. It's a necessary thing that you need in order to not have darkness. Darkness meaning ignorance. You need to have light. You know, if you're bumbling around in the pitch black night, you know, one of those dark moon nights where it's just completely black, it can be almost impossible, right? So you need some kind of light. You need some kind of Pradipika to shine the way so that you can see where you're going. And so that's what this is. This is his version of shedding light on the darkness of our minds, right? It's very beautiful. The thing about this text is that this is actually a very secret text. This is pure tantric text, and it was passed on orally from teacher to student over hundreds and thousands of years. And we said that the prerequisite for that was kindness, really. If you want to boil it down to one word, that would be the quality that a teacher's looking for before they decide to pass that to the students. So then if it's secret, why are we sitting up here blabbing about it? There's a few reasons. One of the reasons that our lamas talk about is that the Tibetan lamas who granted this through the Buddhist side of the lineage, when they realized that yoga, or pieces of facets of yoga like asana, were being taught and practiced in the West by literally hundreds of millions of people worldwide, what that meant to them was, to my teachers' teachers on the Buddhist side, was that people were really already practicing this and they were ripe for it. They're what they call ripe. Yeah, they're almost overripe. They've been doing all this stuff and they don't quite really know what they're doing, and so it's time to give the rest of these teachings now in a proper, responsible way to people, rather than having them bumble around in the dark and like, you know, you're trying to like read it out of a book or something that you bought at Banyan Books, you know, like it doesn't work like that. Surely you can go to Banyan Books and you can get all kinds of wonderful things. It's true. We were there the other day. We were like, ooh, look at this, you know. Oh, that's really secret. Why are they even writing that down? You can go do that, and you can go home, and you can sit there and try to practice it, but unless you have the blessing of that lineage blessing that we were talking about, and unless you have the oral lung, Tibetans call it lung, it means transmission. If you don't have that from your teacher, you're not going to get very far. with that. There's a certain sort of a power or an innate energy that happens when you get a transmission from teacher to student like that. So you need what we call the blessing, right? And then if you're like me, like you do it anyway, and you try to like practice, before we found our teachers, and then, yeah, I mean, I hurt myself quite badly with certain practices, which took me about a year to recover from. So when Yvonne was talking about you can hurt yourself, we'll get into it. Yeah, you can. So it's very powerful stuff. You have to go slowly. You have to get it through a lineage and a teacher, and then you can sit down and do the practices. They just touch on a little bit. We like to try to just make sure that we're getting all the little nuances here. Whereas Master Swamarama talks about, I will dress its lovely form in jewels when he's talking about the Hatha Yoga. I mean, basically, he's saying, I can't really add anything to this. I'm not actually teaching you anything. I'm just making it ornate. I'm dressing it. I'm adorning it and hanging a nice necklace on it for you, but it's already complete. You see? So there's a certain sort of a humility there from him that's coming through when he says something like that. Yeah. Did you want to do some verses? Yeah?
Yeah.
Or are we going to do one of like these stories?
No, but what I wanted to talk about a little bit was our own teachers and their particular methods of gauging our suitability. Like, are we going to give you this transmission or aren't we time, right? And what they do, for example, Swami Muktibuddhananda talked a lot about her guru, Swami Satyananda. And she went there. She went to that ashram, the Satyananda, the Bihar School of Yoga in India when she was 17. And, she had seen Swami Satyananda in Australia. And so she had this idea, she already was like really had connected to him at a heart level, and she knew that that was her guru when she first met him. And then she went to India. Her mother took her, and her mother encouraged her and went with her. And then they got to the ashram, and they didn't get to do anything of like, yoga, as she knew it, She had been doing asana practice, and she'd been doing maybe a little pranayama practice and stuff like that. Basically, what they did was they worked from morning till night. That's what they did, That's all they got to do. It's called karma yoga. And then after years, Swami Satyananda gave her a sadhana to do. And just in little drips and drabs, And our teachers are the same. When we got to this place in Arizona where we did our studies, the majority of our studies, I remember when I first went down there, I thought, oh yeah, Tibetan Buddhism, and it's going to be like this, and we're going to learn that, and they have all kinds of cool ways of methods of meditation, that we're going to learn, and I had all these ideas in my head. And then you get there, and they give you this literature, right? And the only thing it says is, you're not coming here to learn to meditate. You're not coming here to learn to debate. You're not coming here to learn Sanskrit or Tibetan. You're not coming here for any reason other than to learn how to serve. It says, and I'm like, I don't know about that. What do you mean? What do I, you know? And I had all this like resistance, major amount of resistance, and now I have some small inkling of why that is, and it has to do with what Roger is talking about, and the fact that unless you're are practicing kindness, unless you're being a kind person, you know. And that's a big catch-all phrase, right? We use it because it's all-encompassing and it includes everything, you know. You can say, just be kind, and it encompasses all the yamas and all the niyamas, and you know what I mean? If you just think, okay, just be kind, right? Because the thing is this, right? Unless you are kind in your world, you can't experience any good result from anything that you do. You can't experience happiness, and you can't experience bliss, and you know, you certainly can't experience yourself being cared for. And everything that emanates from being kind, right? So when we're kind, what's happening is that we're creating this imprint, neuronal pattern. Swami Mukti would say, you're creating a neuronal pattern of kindness in your own mind. And when you do that over and over and over and over again, you know, and you're kind and you're kind and you're kind, then that's what you start to see. That's just the way it looks to you. It can't be helped. That's the way it is. And if you're anything other than that, you know, then that's the way it starts to look to you. And the thing is that the practices are geared to bring the prana into the central channel. Yes, it's true. Will they do that? Yes, they will. But if we're not kind, you know, and if we have some kind of like resistance to helping others or serving others, or if we're deceitful, you know, or we're stealing from others, or never content with what we have, or we have some favorite afflicted state, which we all do, then at a point that the manifestation of that, which is a blockage of prana in either Ida or Pingala, will manifest itself, and you will come to a grinding halt, you know, in your practice, and you can go no further. And what it is that the channels, the side channels, will always manifest what kind of person you are, and vice versa. So however you are, however you treat your world and yourself and the people around you, shows up, it reflects in your side channels. So because they know that, right, because the teachers know that, they set you to work on this grand karma yoga program. Because in karma yoga you get very, very, very fast, very quickly, you get to experience a whole multitude of afflicted states that rise up, you know, on a constant overflowing basis. You know, they just like keep on coming fast and furiously. And when you spend the whole day trying to serve people and you're not getting paid and there's nothing in it for you and nobody ever praises you, and usually they just put you down, and you know, it's never good enough, and like somebody else gets all the praise for what you did and you get the blame for somebody else's mess ups. That's what it is to do karma yoga, and that's the purpose of it. To bring out all the resistance, to bring out all the anger, you know, to bring out all of the seeds that we have for those afflicted states which will impede our spiritual path. They will impede our spiritual path. So what they're doing is they're hastening this process. You know, like for example, Baba Haridas and that type of lineage, right? Satyananda lineage, the Baba Haridas lineage, our lineage, Geshe Michael Lama Christie, masters at bringing that out, right? Putting us in a pressure cooker kind of a situation where you get to experience all of this in like a safe environment, you know, where you get to learn how you can do something else with those energies that come up, those negative energies, those twisted energies, because at the end of the day, they are energies. their energy is the same as the energy of bliss. You know, immutable bliss. Immutable bliss has a certain taste and it has a certain feel, right? Right? Everybody has some kind of, for them, you know, you all have some kind of a, when I say bliss, you know, all of you, something's going on and you understand what I'm talking about. And this is an energy. And this is the energy that we're all after. But the fact is that all of the energies, including the energies of the negative states of mind, are usable. They're usable. They're energies, and you can do something with them. And in that ashram situation, under the guidance of the teacher, you get to learn how to use those energies too, and to get very happy about bringing them on as quickly as you can, and as furiously as you can, you know, and as much as you can. So that's cool too, right? To find some use for our afflictions. Go ahead.
Sorry, I feel like I kind of left you hanging there when I said nothing works, and and yoga doesn't have any inherent qualities of working, you know, by itself and so forth. So I feel to do a little bit of mop up and clean up on that. So what we're really talking about is, and we said, is the emptiness of yoga and the emptiness of basically everything in our world. Yeah. It's very hard to find reproducibility in things. You know, you try to get something makes you happy one day, and that's great, and then the next day you're like, oh yeah, I'll do that thing that made me happy yesterday, and you do it again perfectly, and then it doesn't make you happy. Nothing. In fact, it may even make you the opposite of that. It makes you angry or upset, or something shifted in your mind about it. And you're like, yeah, but yesterday it worked. You know, what happened? You know, yesterday that person made me feel good. I thought that they were a good person. Oh, today, now they're bagging on me, you know, like, now they're not a good person. Well, which one are they? You know, are they really good, or are they really, like, not a good person? You see? Well, guess what? They're just like everything else as well. People, objects, things, everything in your life doesn't have any qualities of being good or bad, you know, or making you happy or unhappy. They're empty. All of it is only coming from you. Why? Why? Because the objects are blank, and you look at this, and a certain image comes into your mind. What's happening is that the eye is picking up data. It's picking up through the optical nerve colors and shapes. I'm holding this in my hand. It's getting stuff back down the optical nerve into my brain, and the brain is furiously going through everything very quickly, so fast you can't even realize it, and it's labeling it. It's labeling this, and I look at it and I go, oh yeah, that's one of those plums, right? Okay? That's a label from my mind. Everything is like that. My mind is labeling everything this way. I'm making the labels in my world. There is no label coming at me. There is no plum out there independent of my label of plum. Do you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. There isn't a plum out there like that. What is the proof of that? Is that if there was a plum, that was a self-existent plum. Okay? It had plumness. It was a plum. Everybody would have to see it as a plum, because it was a plum. There wouldn't be any possibility of anything else happening, because it was a plum. But it's not. Why? Because other people have different labels for it, you know? A dog doesn't think it's a plum, for example. Maybe another being, you know, in a different part of the world doesn't know what the heck a plum is. Maybe plums don't grow in their part of the world, right? So they don't know necessarily what it is. You see what I mean? So it's labels. It's us. The world is coming this way. People think, oh yeah, stuff happens to me. If stuff is going on in my world, things are happening to me, implying that the world is just like washing over me and I don't have any control over it. You know, I'm sorry to say that it's the other way around. I'm creating the world. I'm labeling the world. The world is blank. The people are blank. They're neutral. They're empty. They don't have any qualities. Good person, bad person, happy person, sad person, and it just goes on and on and on. You see? So there's a certain point where you sit up one day and go, oh, you know, what that does is it puts the responsibility squarely on my shoulders. You know, if I don't like the world and I don't like my world, and if it's true that the labels are coming out this way and the world's not coming at me, then maybe what can I do to shift the movie of my life? You see? What can I do to start changing the way that I view the world? Because that's what it is. Is this room just a normal room full of normal people? Is this room like a room full of suffering beings? Is this room a room that, what would a Buddha see if a Buddha was looking in this room right now? Buddha paradise. Because they're a Buddha. If you're a suffering being, or you're a mentally afflicted being, or you're an unhappy person, that's the kind of thing that you're going to be forced to see. You know? This room is empty, and the people in it are empty, you see? And so too is yoga. That's what I meant when I said yoga is empty. It doesn't have any qualities of being able to help you do anything or get anywhere or any samadhi or anything else. But because it's empty, if you approach it in the right way, and if you use kindness, and if you open your heart and you follow the instructions of your teacher, then it can be used to get to samadhi and get to Buddhahood or angelhood or whatever else you want to label it, yeah, because it's too is empty, you see? So you can use things like that, and it's dependent upon how you act. In the moment, you plant these seeds in your mind, these samskaras get planted, these, what are you calling them? Engrams, right? Like, that go off in your mind, neural pathways are collected, you start labeling things, you start interacting with people, that then gets replayed down the road as the movie of your life. You see what I mean? So if you're an angry person all the time and all you do is shout at people and all you do is project anger onto the world, that's what you're going to reap. And all the religions of the world are really all over this. You know, Jesus taught that. I mean, you reap what you sow. Yeah, duh. I mean, that's karma, right? Yeah, that's karma. That's what he was talking about. Yeah, duh, me. I didn't mean duh, Jesus. Right? No, that's what yeah. But it is, and all of them teach that. And even science is all over that. It's called cause and effect, you know. If you put a certain cause into place, there will be an effect. That's karma. You see? What goes around comes around. Karma. So kindness and taking care of other people, and even just really small ways. You don't have to do some huge act that puts you on CNN or something. You know, you were really kind today. It's not like that. You know. It's not like that. You do millions of tiny little acts of kindness across a lifetime, and you get that accrual of positive, virtuous karma and engrams in your mind, and then it enables these practices to work a lot more readily for you. You see? That's how it works. That's how yoga really works, is through that. Yeah? So now here's another verse. Hatha vidyam hi matsyandra goraksha adhya vijante svatma aromata va yogi janite tat prasadataha. Now this art of the yoga of the sun and moon was first created by Matsyandra and Goraksha and others as well. I, the yogi Swatmarama, bring it to you too with joy. So the story of Matsyendraja is that he was a yogi who was just minding his own business, fishing by the ocean one day, and then a big whale came along and gobbled him up. And then he was in the whale's belly, and he was kind of hanging out there for a while. Simultaneously to this, Lord Shiva, who granted yoga, he's sort of like the Lord Adinath, he's the deity that gave the world yoga. He's sitting there on the edge of the ocean with his beautiful wife, and she says to him, you know, Lord, could you please teach and explain to me about the deep movement of inner prana in the body? And he says, yes, I will explain it to you. I will give you teachings on that, but you must take us to a place where nobody can hear. So she creates this little hut at the bottom of the ocean, and they go down there, and he begins to teach her. And who's hanging out there is Matsyendraja in the belly of the whale, listening to the teachings. And Lord Shiva knows that he's there, and he gives the teachings anyway, and then he gives him initiation. Matsyendraja gets initiated by Shiva. 12 years goes by, he's in the belly of the whale, somebody catches the whale and they let him out. And then he begins to teach yoga. So you can take that with as much of a grain of salt as you wish. I would propose that anything's possible in yoga, and if you had enough prana stabilized and running in your central channel, that you could do something like that. I would think so, but maybe it's just a story. So you have to decide about that, and you know, if you keep yourself open to the possibility that things like that can happen in yoga, then you know, maybe they will for you. Yeah? It's all about that as well. We need to do some verses, my dear.
Okay.
Yeah. Do we have a story about Matsyendraja? A song, right?
Well, the thing is that
Can
we
read
have
the
many
song?
songs.
Can we read the Matsyendraja song and then you'll kick in? Do you know where it is?
What Matsyendraja song?
All the songs of the Mahasiddhas.
You mean the line of Mahasiddhas?
Yeah.
Right here?
Oh, here.
Oh.
No.
No. While you're looking for that, when we were going over this course with Swami Muktibuddhananda at our house on Gabriola just in the last few days, she was absolutely blown away by these stories of the Mahasiddhas. And the reason is that, you know, in right around this time of Yogi Swatmarama, the Moguls, no, it was before, it was around around 500 AD, the Moguls started to invade India, right? And all these yogis and these practices got driven north into Tibet and underground in India. So the tradition of the Mahasiddhas got very lost in India, and not to mention the fact that it was an oral tradition, and they didn't write stuff down. You know, they weren't supposed to write stuff down. They didn't even have a way to write stuff down. And the fact that even when they did somehow record things, it just got completely lost because they didn't do what the Tibetans did, which was to make woodblock prints. So the Tibetans immortalized this stuff. You know, when all the yogis got driven north. Hopefully, many of the yogis got driven north, and then they started teaching the Tibetan people, and then the Tibetan people learned the Sanskrit language, and then they started translating all these teachings, and then they set it down in woodblock prints, and that's why it is that we get to have it. And all of these, I'm going to say many of these scriptures were translated by our teachers from Tibetan. So it went Sanskrit to Tibetan, and then our teachers translated it from Tibetan to English. So the Indian scriptures were translated after they were translated into Tibetan. And that's why it is that many people in the yoga lineage in India today don't have access to a lot of this stuff. It's really wild.
It's
really
lost.
wild.
It's gone. They recorded
So-
it on palm leaves, and they're rotten.
And they're rotten,
Yeah.
right. So Swami Muktibuddhananda sees this Mahasiddha stuff in this course material, and she's like, what? Where did this come from? You know? Because that's not her tradition, right? So that's another reason why we sat there and we were just like, wow. It's a really unbelievable moment in time, like we were saying. It really is. You know, you can't even imagine, like, it's wild. So anyway, the Mahasiddha stories all came from the woodblock prints of the Tibetans. And they're really cool, beautiful stories, which are so lost in India, you know. Like, they kind of know about them and they've heard them, but it's been passed down by word of mouth, and you know how it is, right? It changes a lot. And probably, you know, some of you have heard that Matsyendra story, right? In a lot of different versions. But anyway, it was Matsyendra that was kind of like the kingpin of the Tibetan side of the lineage. So it was with Matsyendra and Goraknath. Goraknath is the student of Matsyendra. Matsyendra and Goraknath were like that's where the lineage goes, yoga lineage, you know, Hindu. It starts with Tantra. It started with Tantra, and then it moves into the Hatha practices and all that, moves through all the different systems of Indian philosophy. And then it's when the Mahasiddhas get driven north, and Matsyendra and Goraknath are actually the top of the Tibetan Buddhist yoga lineage. In Tibetan Buddhism, these teachings are what are classified as Tantra. So this is Tantric teaching in Tibetan Buddhism. And you don't get to do it till you've done the 18 ACI courses, you know. Like many years, decades of study in the monastery of the sutra, the Buddhist sutra teachings. And then you get yoga, you know, like Hatha Yoga, Pradipika style Hatha Yoga. And in the yoga lineage, it's the opposite, right? You do the Hatha practices, you do the physical practices, and then you get to sit in meditation. In the Tibetan Buddhist lineage, you sit in meditation for 20 years, and then you get to do the yoga, you know. So here are these two traditions, you know, they've come together. And I think the point is, let's do both. Like, all at once. And that's what our teachers taught us to do. And that's what our teachers basically sent us to do in retreat. And they encouraged us to find authoritative teachers to teach us the practical side of the lineage. And somehow that's what's happened here, you know. Yeah. Yeah.
I think about 30% of the lineage roll call for the Hatha yogis were Buddhist monks. So again, the reason we're kind of driving this point home is because there is a lot of people who feel like, you know, this is not an authentic, you know, yogic transmission because it's like interwoven with Buddhist philosophy. But technically speaking, this is probably one of the most accurate transmissions available because it's interwoven with Buddhist philosophy and yogic philosophy, and they are the same. At the end of the day, they had different terminology, they had different, you know, slightly different ways of expressing or talking about things. It's the same practices, it's the same goals, you know, and there's a lot of depth on the Buddhist side, and there's a lot of depth on the yogic side, or the Indian yogic side, you see. And so bringing that together and being able to demonstrate that a lot of these people were Buddhist monks who were also Hatha yogis and Mahasiddhas is phenomenal. And I feel like it gives a more whole presentation, you know. So
we'll read the roll call.
We will read the roll call.
Yeah, so here it is.
Yeah.
This is the parampara, the lineage. There was the glorious one, the first protector, Shiva, Matsyendra, lord of the fish, and Shavara, or Shabara sometimes pronounced, the mountain hermit, Ananda Bhairava, bringer of joy and fear, Chaurangin the thief, Meena the fish, Goraksha the cowherd, Virupaksha the one with a strange eye, Vileshaya the serpent, and the yogins Manthana the stirrer, Bhairava the frightener, Siddhi the accomplished one, Buddha the awakened, Kanthadi dressed in rags, Korantaka inner jasmine of white, Surananda joy of the gods, Siddhapada exalted attainments, Charpati the whip, and those called Kanerin of the single eye, Pujyapada exalted one worthy of offerings, Nityanatha the constant protector, Niranjana spotless one, Kapalin keeper of the skull, Bindu Nata guardian of the spark of knowledge, Kakachandishvara lord of the fire within the dark. So, oh, not done yet. And just so, Alama, mother breath, Prabhudeva, god of the mighty, Ghoda Chola, the naked wild mountain horse, Tini of the plant, Bhanukin, the brilliant light, Naradeva, god among men, Kanda, the elixir, and Kapalika, who carried a skull. You know, Swami Muktibuddhananda was telling us about the Kapalika sect, right? They practiced in really interesting and different ways, like on top of dead bodies and graveyards and things like that. That's the Kapalika sect. So this whole lineage, starting with Matsyendra, is in the Tibetan roll call. Big in the Tibetan roll call. Can I put this back here? Okay. So, and we're going to tell you a whole bunch of these stories of the Mahasiddhas as the course goes on. Very, very cool, very unusual, and unbelievably privileged to have them, right? Oh, by the way, we didn't do any readings or manuals for anyone because we really had no idea how many people wanted to have readings and manuals and all that. So we thought we would just wait and then prepare the manuals and it's, as you can see, it's a fairly voluminous course, and it's a very complete course. So these courses are designed for yoga teachers, actually, in order to complete your knowledge of yoga and make it very thorough so that you have a very solid grounding and foundation in the foundations of what you're teaching, in many ways. So not only is it not an Eka Pada practice, like a Eka Anga. Eka Anga is like Ashtanga, Ashtanga means 8-limbed, right? Not the Sri Sri Patavi Joyce style of Ashtanga, but the Ashtanga of Master Patanjali. Master Patanjali's Yoga Sutras are based on the Ashtanga, the 8 limbs of yoga. And so that's something very useful to know as a yoga teacher. And that's something that you can teach your yoga students, right? That it's not just the asana, which is usually the first thing in the lineup of 8 or 10 or 12 or 15 or a lot more different things that you're supposed to go through before you reach the goal of yoga. And there's a lot more besides that. So Hatha Yoga Pradipika adds to that Ashtanga and gives you a lot more tools to be able to offer. And it's very useful to have many, many tools in your toolbox for all kinds of different students. And then there's an art of being able to then simplify and pick and filter, and see what to give at the right time to your students. But anyway, the courses were designed for yoga students. They're very, very, the translations are very accurate and very complete. There are homeworks and quizzes and meditations within each of the 4 courses, which cover the 4 chapters. And not everybody is interested in doing that kind of study of this text or any text. But with our particular teachers, Geshe Michael and Lama Christie, their mission was to create a body of people who could transmit the lineage accurately. That was their mission, and they were very, very, very strict about that. So when we got this transmission, we we did all our homework and we did all our quizzes and we did all our meditations and like that. So if you like, we can provide you with a manual, and if you like, you can do the course that way. So maybe you could raise your hand and let us see who wants that. Some people are like, okay. Okay.
Did you not get one when, did you do it with Maru?
I did, but I think this is going to be different.
He's going to do the homework, aren't you? You're going to do the homework again, aren't you?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so we'll do that. We'll have manuals next time for you, and you can see, you can see what it's all about. And as I say, it's very cool to do it. The way that the courses are designed, you get first of all, you get the oral transmission. You hear it, right? And then you read the readings and you read the translation, and then you get a sense of it like that. Then you do the homework and you go through the material again, right? You're exposed to it again, and then that time you have to really work the gray matter and recall what you heard in class and recall what you read in the readings. And then by this time it's really starting to get in your head. It's really in there, And then after you do the homework, then you do a meditation. There's a meditation assignment for each class. So today we're doing 2 classes. So there's a meditation assignment. So you do that, and you journalize your meditation assignment, and then you do a quiz. So by the time you do the quiz, you've been through the material like 3 times, right? And it's really getting into your head. And I think in HYP there's even finals, aren't there? There might even be a final. Kim looks so excited. I love it. It is very cool. And what we can tell you is that when you do these courses like that, it so becomes a part of you. And, then you're really fit to be able to transmit it, Then it just comes naturally, it just flies off your tongue, when you're teaching an asana class or whatever, a pranayama class or whatever it is. So it's very cool. Okay, so let's see. I want to go to verse 9. Is that the next one? Yeah, verse 9. So that was the roll call of the lineage. Here's verse 9. Yeah. Itya adayo maha siddha hatha yog prabhavatha kandha yitva kala dandam brahmande vicharanti te. Kala dandam is the key word in that verse. Here's what it means. These, meaning the lineage, these and other mighty, accomplished beings born into power by the yoga of the sun and moon roam the universe, this egg of the pure one, mingling among the crowds of men, for they have murdered death itself. So it's the word kaladanda that we want to talk about. Kala is a word that means different things. It means it means to drive or to produce, to bring into being. And it's also the Sanskrit word for time. And it's also the Sanskrit word for death, which is very interesting, right? Because time, just by its very nature, the way that we conceive of time and the purpose to which we apply that concept of time is so that we feel like we need to measure the beginning and the end of a particular event or an occurrence, right? And in so doing, right? In so doing, we automatically banish it to certain death by virtue of the fact that we have said, 5:30 to 9:30, right? I applied the concept of time to this class. Automatically, I killed it. At 9:30, this class is dead. It's gone. right? So the interesting thing is that as soon as you start conceiving of time, you have automatically, it's not, banished is not the word I want. You know, I left my vocabulary somewhere before 3-year retreat. What is it I'm trying to say? You doom yourself to death when you apply the concept of time to a life, to any life, you know. So, kala danda, right? It means time or death. Sorry, kala. Danda is like dandasana. Dandasana, right? Everyone knows dandasana? Dandasana is this asana. It looks like this. Chaturanga Dandasana. You all know Chaturanga Dandasana is when you're coming down in stick pose. This is Dandasana, right? This. Where you're seated like this and you've got your hands beside you and you're making your body like a stick or a club. And that's what it means. Danda means a stick or a club. And here's what the connotation of this word kaladanda is so cool. It means to beat time or death to death, which is the purpose of yoga. So when we bring the prana into the central channel, when we bring prana out of Ida Pingala, automatically, Ida Pingala, right? Ida Pingala is duality. You know, Ida is associated with night and darkness. Pingala is associated with sun, right? Surya. So the Ha channel is the Pingala channel. The Ta channel is the moon channel. You know, sun and moon, dark and light, day and night, all residing in these two side channels, all arising as a result of the energies that we harbor in those two side channels. And so the implication is that when we are successful in using yoga, you know, we do this yogam sharanam gacchami, and we propel ourselves forward with yoga, and we succeed in bringing the pranic energy into the central channel. Automatically what happens is that the side channels, Ida Pingala, collapse. They dissolve when the prana leaves them. You know, it's like those balloons, those long balloons like this, you know, those ones I'm talking about. If all the air leaves them, then they just like, anyway, they collapse, right? So this is kaladanda. Kaladanda is that process of murdering time and death. You know, the purpose of yoga is immortality. It is immortality. What does that even mean, you know? Like, what does it mean to be immortal? Mortality has to do with a concept that arises out of time. That's what it means. So if you have no concept of time because you have no pranic energies that support those concepts, then there's no time, and so then you can say, oh, well, what is there then? What is there then? Well, if you're not subject to the constraints of time, and you've kaladandad, death, and you're not subject to the constraints of space, and you have worked your pranic energy so that it's all running in the central channel, and there are certain symptoms, you know, like of that. There are certain symptoms, and you start to appear to have a lot of light and not so much earth element, not so much flesh and bone and that kind of mass. So then you become more energetic in terms of your makeup. And you know, we talk about it like light body or diamond body or pranic body. You know. So then that kind of a body is not subject to the kinds of things that this body is subject to. So then what does that mean? It could mean anything, right? It could mean that Lord Shiva can initiate Matsyendra at the bottom of the ocean in the belly of a fish, you know. It can mean that, you know, he and Parvati can live in a hut at the bottom of the ocean for 12 years. You know, it can mean that in an instant I understand, you know, what my friend needs, who just lost her partner, and maybe it's a cat, you know, or maybe it's a leaf falling in the autumn sky, or whatever it is, I know what it is and I can make it happen, you know, just like that. I can make it happen. Because I'm not limited by this body, and I'm not limited by space, and I'm not limited by time. So that's kind of where we're going. It's cool. And then everything is geared towards that. Everything supports that state, right? Of decreasing the number of gross breaths and all that kind of thing. So then all of the practices of pranayama and shatkarma and all those things, you start to understand, oh, you know, oh yeah, okay. So I want to get rid of the phlegm, you know, and I want to clear this body out. And those of you who did shatkarma in retreat, you notice, right? Wow, I feel light. I feel light. Isn't that the way it is? You're like, what? Like literally you feel like, you know? So, it begins at that level. It begins with the gross level, and it begins with decreasing the earth element in that way. Decreasing the earth element by clearing out the gross passages of the body, first of all, and then moving into clearing out the subtle passages of the body with the breath and the prana, and then sealing in that much more refined prana, you know, into the central channel, because that's the only thing that gets to go in there. You can't work with those energies as long as you have a lot of, for example, a lot of mucus, or you know, you've got a lot of toxins in the fat cells, as Roger was talking about earlier. So at every level, we have to establish purity at every level. Okay. So that's a nice time for just a little break, I think.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Yeah.
So let's have a little break.
Yeah.
Actually, why don't we all stand up and do just a little tiny bit more asana? And what we could do, what we'll do is I'll just take you through these like 5 very cool asanas which we use in conjunction with the shatkarma practice, in conjunction with a purification practice. And then one day, when you get to come and do those purification practices with us, then you'll already know the asanas. So it goes like this. Aren't you going to do them?
I'm watching.
You're watching. So you go like this. You clasp your hands and then bring your arms up overhead with the palms facing up. And it would be better if you stand on something hard like this floor, although I'll stay up here so you can see me, because we're going to come onto tiptoes. And you inhale and you come up onto your toes. Good. And you exhale and you just drop back down. And inhale and come up onto your toes. Good. And exhale back down. And inhale. Exhale. And what this does, right, is it stretches all of the nerves, the nervous system, the entire nervous system from the tips of your toes to the tips of your fingers. And if you do it first thing in the morning, it's very cool, very, very, very sort of invigorating. Yeah. So we'll do a couple more like that. And last one. Okay. And then I like to change the clasp of my hands because I am by nature an exercise therapist. And this maintains symmetry. And then we're going to side bend to your right. Side bend to your right. So you're going to inhale and then exhale and side bend to your right. And I like to lift my heels just a hair. You don't have to though. Inhale and exhale, side bend to your left. Inhale up, exhale, side bend. And as you're side bending, you're going to look straight out ahead of you. And that just helps keep you in that plane of movement, you know. So it's not a forward bend, it's not a back bend, it's a pure side bend, as though you were between 2 panes of glass. So always inhaling up and exhaling down, inhaling up, exhaling down. Good. That's nice. So this is called the Shankha Prakshalana series. They teach it at Salt Spring Center too, but not in that YTT. So then the third one is a twist, but what you must do is have your feet at about hips width, and don't do this. I'll show you what not to do. You see how I'm twisting my knees? This can really rip on your knees. So try to keep your pelvis square. And then one hand will go on top of the opposite shoulder and the other hand kind of sneaks around the waist like that. Yeah. And then the other way. So it's kind of just the upper body that's twisting. And keep your feet firm and your knees as still as you can. And other than that, you can swing with wild abandon and just breathe normally. That's right. Good. But try to look over your shoulder also, so you are getting a bit of a twist there. Good. Nice. So that's the first three. And we'll do the other two some other time. So you can walk around and have a break and come and eat the rest of our chocolate. Go ahead. Just kidding.
I better quickly get some.
No, please come and have some. And help yourself to, is it tea or something?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
tea with the bowl.
Yeah, please have tea.
Yummy.
The translation
Yes.
with yoga sharanam.
Yeah. Yogam, Yogam Sharanam is we propel, we move ourselves forward with our yoga. Propel ourselves. You know propel? Propeller. Propeller とかさ。前押していく。自分をどうにか先々にこうね。
前進していく。
押していくっていう意味。ヨガを使って。Something like that. You can look in the dictionary that you have now.
Yes.
Back again.
Move ourselves to
Propel ourselves forward with our yoga. Or you could also say yoga propels us forward. You could also say, right?
I see. Yes.
Yeah.
Delicious. It's like exactly the same as the garden one.
You guys like some tea?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
And another thing, 5 series of the movement we just did. Is you said the
Shanka Prashalana. S-H-A-N-K-A Shanka. Prak P-R-A-K. Shanka Prak. This Shanka Prak. S-H-A. L-A.
Oh, good, you're welcome.
Shanka Prashalana. It's all one word actually.
Okay. Some of the words I have to look up.
What kind of tea is it? No, I don't know oil.
Yeah.
Thank you for Oh, nice tea. Do you like licorice? Yes. Okay, so that's Kalananda.
Yeah, I'm really good at things actually.
Okay, good. We'll just do that.
We're going to be, which I think it's finished.
I knew it.
So we're going to do verse 110.
Wait, so Jimmy, you buy this, you have this?
Yeah, you can find like the cushion.
It's good chocolate.
Like little
That's the first one.
And I say after, but I mean right now.
Teacher didn't have to do my list.
I'm going to do this first.
Today is the best day. After 9:30,
Please come and have some chocolate.
It'll keep me awake.
I know.
It'll keep you awake?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very sensitive.
Totally.
Yeah. It'd just be like.
Yeah.
Because it's dark too.
Yeah. I love it.
I could take some home for tomorrow.
We'll see.
It's really good. It's green and black's, I think.
No, but don't encourage her to flip out.
It's Ananda, and she won't flip out.
Ananda.
She's going to have it tomorrow.
Just call me.
Ananda. Amanda and Ananda. Flip.
Change it by default.
Huh?
You can change my name.
You know what Mukti Bodha's name is in her passport? Did we tell you this?
this cookie too is quite complex.
Mukti Bodha. Mukti Bodhananda. Mukti Bodhananda.
Oh,
Gabriel,
right.
Grace, Saraswati, Chandra, Kilate.
I don't believe
That's
that.
what's in her passport.
That's long.
It's a bit of a
That's a
mouthful.
mouthful.
And the woman at the immigration center.
Oh, I'm not uncomfortable.
So what did she say? She was so
I'm just
funny.
wall.
She says, tell me about this.
Extreme aggressive.
Sounds so funny.
Isn't that what she said?
I don't know.
Tell me about this.
Yeah.
Did you think, were you wondering when I was going to ask?
That's a long name. Wow.
So we'll just plod on for a second, and then I think we'll wrap up a little bit earlier than 9:30, to see good people can get home and get some rest. So, just to just want to really quickly, like Yvonne was talking about Kaladanda beating death to death with a stick, becoming immortal, you know, turning into a body of light and so forth. You know, and we talked about that's just so wild. That's just so incomprehensible to us. How could it be that this body can turn into light? You know, yoga says that it can. It's in many yogic scriptures. It's not some fantasy that has been conjured up by someone of late. That is the point of yoga, and basically what we said is, you know, you become immortal. How? This body dies. This body must die. You have to leave this body. Because, as Yvonne said, because why? Because it was born. It started. When the sperm hit the egg, you started dying. So you must leave this body. But the fruit or the promise of yoga, if it's done well and correctly, is that you leave this body and you emerge into a pranic body of pure prana and consciousness in a super refined state. And the way that you do that is by, this is like a mantra, you get the winds into the central channel, which is Sushumna Nadi. You do all of these practices. Everything that you ever did with yoga is only and specifically, man, is there?
Oh no,
Are you
just
okay?
I had a moment.
You had a moment. Oh, okay. Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Okay, great. All of these practices are meant to get you to that point, right, where all the prana enters into the central channel. Not only does it enter there, it stays there. Not only does it stay there, it dissolves there completely. And when it does that, the frequency of that prana then changes. It's like an electrical current. You know, you're dealing with different circuits, or like some voltage wires, like outside on the street, they're carrying way more frequency. They're running at a higher voltage than other channels or nadis in your body. And when you can get everything into the central channel and get it to enter, stay, and dissolve, boom, you pop out into a pranic body, into a light body, into an angel body, into whatever you want to label it body, okay? That's how you become immortal. This body you must leave, you know. But so that's the whole idea behind that. So, verse 1.10, Ashita tapa tapanam samashraya mato hadhya ashisha yoga yuktanam adhakaraka mato hathaha. The yoga of the sun and moon is a hermitage, the best place of shelter for all those seared by the heat of this life's pain. The yoga of the sun and moon is a hermitage, best foundation for all those who wish to yoke themselves to the way of yoga. It's so beautiful. So, hopefully what happens in your spiritual career is that you are seared by this life's pain. Actually, it's healthy to be seared by it and to get what we call renunciation. To get so sick of pain, not only in yourself but in the people around you, and watching pain as it plays out in a million different ways in the world, that you really feel this deep urge to do something about it. I can't fucking stand it anymore. I am so sick of watching people in pain and suffering. It's tearing me apart. I need to do something about it. If it's true that the world is coming this way and these are my labels, then I'm the one that I need to fix myself here. The plane is going down. The ship is sinking and I'm on it. It's me that's sinking. You know, I'm engulfed and mired in ignorance and darkness, and I need yoga is my shelter, is what he's saying. Yoga is my hermitage. It's my soothing elixir. It's the panacea that will free me from the bonds of the suffering life, and it will take me and enable me to then go to a place where I can benefit other people in a more profound way than I can right now. You see, that's what he's saying. Let yoga be your hermitage. You know, let your practice be your shelter. That is the only shelter that we have in this life. That is the only thing that you can count on at the end of the day. And I tell you truly, the only thing that you will take with you in your mind when you do leave this body will be all of these kinds of practices and all of the acts, all the little wee millions of acts of kindness that we talked about earlier. Those are the things that will propel you and carry you forward to a higher place. You see, so along the way between, you know, between being suffering being and being like angel body of light, we got to do some practice. You know, we can't just jump from A to right to the end. Like it doesn't really work like that. You got to log some time on the cushion. You got to get down and get dirty with these practices, and you got to get it on with yoga. You know, and so often what happens is people get to that place, that severe renunciation, and they want to go and do retreat. They want to get away. You know, he starts waxing poetic about his hermitage in the forest, you know, away from the noise and the crowds and the madness, so that you can sit there quietly, so that you can strip away all of the stuff that we have in our lives. All the superfluous things fall away in long retreat, hopefully. To the best of your ability, you let them fall away, okay? And that's why you go and do retreat. So you find yourself in an isolated place, and that's a hermitage of sorts. You know, you sequester yourself away from the world, and you begin to practice yoga. And then within that hermitage is the hermitage of your body. Okay, that's a different kind of hermitage that we're talking about. That's where you get to go inward as you sit there for days and months and then maybe years, going in, going in, going in, deeper, more, every day, 2 times a day, 3 times a day, 4 times a day, 5 times a day, in, keeping going until I find that point, that tiny, infinitesimal single point, and then probing it, pushing it, working it, feeling it, opening it up, and eventually, hopefully what happens is you explode into an infinite realm. If you can open up a single point, that is what it is to take yourself to a hermitage in the forest, in your body, and practice yoga, going in like that. And then you can experience yoga. So that's what he's talking about here. This is the foundation, and that's how we do it. Now he starts talking about the yogi Goraksha. He's in the next in the lineage. He was after Matsyandra, and I'm going to read his exquisite song. Here comes the first song from the Mahasiddhas, from the Mahasiddha Goraksha. I bow down to my teacher. Goraksha means the cow herd, and a cow herd cares for his cows, cares for them and keeps them from ever drifting apart. They keep the sun and moon from drifting apart, mixing them in a single song. For Goraksha is Rahula, wondrous he devours the sun. A yogi who chains them tight to the backbone flies in one instant to the realm of reality. Indestructible they become, and crystalline like light, a being of emptiness, clear as diamond itself. They keep the sun and moon from drifting apart, mixing them in a single song. For Goraksha is Rahula, wondrous he devours the sun. So Rahula is code for the central channel, for Sushumna, and he is he's saying, I am the cow herd, and I'm stopping my cows from wandering, my 2 side channels, and I'm bringing them in tightly and uniting them and devouring them within the central channel. That's what his song is about. It's just ooh, it's spine tingling. I love it. It's just so beautiful. So you get a kind of a taste, a feeling for these Mahasiddhas now as they start to come out of the pages and hopefully come alive a little bit. You know, when you hear divine poetry like that. So keep your yoga tight. Keep your experiences and your realizations tightly. Discuss them with your teachers or your partner if they're on that path with you. But try to keep it secret in a way that holds the energy for you. Okay? Don't be freely discussing your realizations with people or your experiences, or you know, I turned into light the other day or something. Like it doesn't. It's not like that. You know, you don't go off like that, because it in saying it depreciates it straight off the bat, and something happens when you do that, and then maybe you're looking at the person that you're telling it, and they're looking at you like, yeah, and what kind of cuckoo are you, you know, like, and then some kind of doubt gets planted in your own mind, and just in doing it, the whole verbalization and enunciation of such things depreciates it. Maybe you can do it eventually like the Mahasiddhas, and write a song about it, or poetry about it, or talk about it in metaphor or prose like that. That's a beautiful way. Or sing about it, or dance.
Usually after you die is a good time.
After you
It's time to
die.
get crucified.
Right. So, keeping it tight just keeps your practice tight, and it keeps the energy tight, and it keeps everything on a nice upward spiral for you, you see, and you don't get this sort of pranic dispersion as you walk around blabbing to people about your practice and your yoga, you know. Keep it locked down like a cell block on the rock, as they say in rap.
Oh, really?
Sure, why not? Oh, I don't know where that is. Yeah. So, yeah, about retreat a little bit. You know, let's be clear about it. You don't have to do years of retreat time in order to have wonderful experiences with retreat. You can go for a few days and have amazing retreat. And then maybe you go for like 10 days or maybe a couple of weeks. And then if you're really having good experiences with retreat, then maybe that can blossom into perhaps a month-long retreat or something like that. That's a long time to be sequestered away from the world and to be by yourself. It really is, and it's very beautiful if you can do that. It's not necessary to log years of time, especially when we're all deeply connected in the world and we have family, we have jobs, we have responsibilities, commitments, money, activities, and so forth. Like for the vast majority of people, we need to remain connected into the world, and so we should, because people are the touchstone of our practice, you see. That's, we want to be, as Guru Mukti Bodhananda says, you want to be rubbing up against people. Because why? Because then you can see, is my yoga really working? Did so-and-so really piss me off like they used to all of those years, you know, when I bumped into them again? Or is something actually changing in my body, you know, in my mind and my body, right? So that is the test, and disappearing for years at a time is awesome for those for whom it is right, and for those that isn't, you know, you do a weekend, you do a month, a day, a week, a month, you know, like that. You can have very profound retreats for short periods of time, and actually even further than that, you know, is family life for people who have children and so forth. That, I think, is probably one of the highest paths. I would say that if it's done correctly, it's probably as profound or more profound than going into a long isolated retreat. To work with your family and maybe your children and your partner and so forth on a daily basis, because you have so much opportunity to practice 24/7. You go stick yourself in the forest in a quiet hermitage somewhere, you know, it's me versus me. You know, there isn't anyone else around. Like, I mean, we did 2 years and 10 months, and we did about 8 months of solo where we didn't see each other at all, not consecutively, but in chunks of time. And then, you know, you're sitting there, you don't have that opportunity the way that you do when you're out in the world. So I say, you know, should you go into long retreat or any kind of retreat, or should you stay out and do the family thing, you know? Well, again, it's really that we should try to do both. We shouldn't just go sequester ourselves for years at a time, and we shouldn't just stay out in the world and not attempt to do any retreat. You see? Because they both complement each other and they both have benefit. And so you go and do a little bit of retreat for a week or something like that, or a couple of weeks, and something changes in you and you get a little 1% more. You up things 1% and you clean yourself up 1% more, and then you come back to the world, and that then benefits from what the time that you did in your retreat then reflects in the way that you act in the world and interact with the people in your life. Yeah? And then you work with that for a while, and then, you know, maybe another 6 months or a year later, you go and do another little retreat, you see? And then they just start feeding on each other, and you get into this beautiful upward cycle. So don't be despondent. Don't think that you need to disappear for years at a time. It's not so. You can have very beautiful retreats for even just a weekend like that. But do try to think about that and plant the seeds in your mind now, if you haven't done retreat time, by just thinking about it and fantasizing about it a little bit and dreaming about it. You know, where could I go to retreat? What would I do when I got there? Is there some kind of training that I can get, you know, teaching, or, you know, what will I do, and so forth. And if you do that, it plants very powerful seeds in your mind that you will want to really go do that at some point. And that's the best place to go into retreat from in your heart, is when you're just so wanting to go do that. You're desperate. You absolutely desperately want to go and do your yoga and your meditation and your pranayama and work with all of this stuff. And that's a beautiful place to go into retreat from in your heart and mind. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about Master Swatmarama's name. It's
Right.
very interesting. Yeah. So we think that this text dates to between the 1400s and 1500s. And his name, Sva Atma Arama. Sva Atma Arama. Sva means self in Sanskrit, and it comes into English in suicide, for example. Self, the word self, and the word secret. English cognates, we call them. Atma, the second part of his name, comes from a root tam, and it means to set apart. Something set apart. And then arama means delight, pleasure, or bliss. So his whole name means one who delights in the nature of his own being. One who delights in the nature of his own being. And you know, we're a little suspicious as to whether that was his real name or not, so much as that, you know, he was saying, well, this is going to be my pen name, and this is what the book is about, and this is the goal of the book, you know. This is what we must achieve through his book. So that's his name, Sva Atma Arama. And then I also, because you're going to do homework, I'm so happy, I have to give you a few more Sanskrit, a little help with the Sanskrit part. There's a lot of Sanskrit in this part. So going back to Matsyendra, Matsyendra means Lord of Fish, right? It comes from a root mud. It means to be exhilarated. You know, like mead, the English word mead, madana in Sanskrit. Also amethyst. And then mats, that's mats. And then yend, comes from the root und. And that means to drop down. Indra, which is what that name is, Matsi Indra, is the god who drops down rain. It means undulate or inundate is what it means. Und, right? Comes into English in those words, undulate. So Matsyendra was the first human to be granted the lineage, right? We said that. Goraksha's guru. Matsyendra held 3 lineages: Shiva, Shakti, and Buddhist. So he actually held those Shiva Shakti lineage, which is Indian yoga lineage, and Buddhist lineage. And you know, it became separate later. It's not that they made a division between those lineages and spiritual traditions. They all just practiced yoga. And so we're kind of going back there. I told you Kaladanda, right? Killing time.